Now I come to Sutta number 4.8.79. Now the Venerable Sariputta came to visit the Exalted One. As he sat at one side, the Venerable Sariputta said this to the Exalted One. Pray, Lord, what is the reason, what is the cause, why such and such a trade practiced by some person turns out a failure? Again, Lord, what is the reason, what is the cause, why such and such a trade practiced by some person does not turn out as he intended? Pray, Lord, what is the reason, why such and such a trade turns out as he intended? Again, Lord, what is the reason, what is the cause, why such and such a trade practiced by some person prospers beyond his intention? And then the Buddha said, in this matter, Sariputta, suppose someone comes to a recluse or Brahmin and makes him an offer, saying, Sir, say what you want by way of support, but he does not give him what he offered. If this man diseases from that life and returns to this sort of life, whatever trade he may practice, it turns out a failure. Again, in this matter, Sariputta, suppose someone comes to a recluse or Brahmin and makes him an offer, saying, Sir, say what you want by way of support, but he does not give him what he intended to give. Then, if this man deceases from that life and returns to this sort of life, whatever trade he may practice, it does not turn out as he intended. Then again, Sariputta, suppose someone comes to a recluse or Brahmin and makes him a similar offer and gives him what he intended to give. Then, if this man deceases and comes back to the human world, whatever trade he may practice turns out as he intended. Once more, Sariputta, suppose someone comes to a recluse or Brahmin and makes him a similar offer and gives him more than he intended to give. Then if this man diseases from that life and returns to this sort of life, whatever trade he may practice, it prospers beyond his intention. This, Sariputta, is the reason, this is the cause, why such and such a trade practiced by some person turns out a failure, or does not turn out as he intended, or does turn out as he intended, or prospers beyond his intention. That's the end of the sutta. Here the Buddha is talking about this person who does trade, that means he opens some business. And when he does some business, he has some expectation of certain profit that he hopes to make, or he thinks that he should make a certain profit. But the result can come out four ways. One is it turns out a miserable failure. Maybe becomes bankrupt. Second one, maybe he expects to make, say, for example, $100 a month. But he does not make as much as he intended. Maybe he gets only $50 a month. He expected to get $100, but he got only $50. That's the second case. The third case is he expects to make $100 a month, and he actually makes $100 a month. That's the third case. The fourth case is, even though he expects to make $100 a month, he might make $200 a month. This is quite a valid thing in life. You see, sometimes two shops on the same road, on the same street, selling the same goods. One shop might do very well, another shop might not do well. Or sometimes somebody opens a shop and then he goes bankrupt. And then he sells off the shop. Another person comes back and the second person comes, takes over the same shop and maybe does the same business, and then he prospers. See, each person's karma is different. So the reason the Buddha said is because of somebody promising to give something, and whether he gives or not, there are four possibilities. The first one, he says he intends to give something to a virtuous, recluse or Brahmin, that means a renunciant, a monk. He says he promises to give something, and then in the end he does not give anything at all. So the result of that is when karma ripens, in the same way he does a business, he intends to make something, he doesn't make anything, instead he goes bankrupt. So the second case is a person promises to give something to a virtuous monk, and then he gives less than what he promised to give. So the result is that when he does a business, he also gets less than what he intended to get. The third one, he promised something and he gave exactly what he promised. So when he does the business, the returns is also exactly what he expected. The fourth one, he said he wanted to give something, but he gave much more to the virtuous monk. He gave much more than he intended to give. So in the same way, when he does in a later life, when he does a business, then he gets much more profit than he thought he was going to get. So this sutta shows that we should not be careless with our words and our promises. Perhaps if you make a promise to a person who is not virtuous, who is not maybe has a lot of bad karma, then the result won't be so bad for you. But if you, in dealings with a virtuous person, you have to be very careful, because if you do wrong to a virtuous person, then the fault, your karma is much worse than if to an ordinary person. The next sutta is 4.9.85. The Buddha said, "Monks, these four persons are found existing in the world. What for? He who is in darkness and bound for darkness. He who is in darkness but bound for light. He who is in light but bound for darkness. And he who is in light and bound for light. And how, monks, is a person in darkness bound for darkness? In this case, a certain person is born in a low family, the family of a scavenger or a hunter or a basket weaver or wheelwright or sweeper, or in the family of some wretched man, hard put to it to find a meal or earn a living, where food and clothes are hard to get. Moreover, he is ill-favored, ugly, dwarfish, sickly, half-blind, crooked, lame or paralyzed, with hardly any food, without clothes, vehicle, without perfumes or flower garlands, bed, dwelling or lights. He lives in the practice of doing evil with body, speech and mind. And so doing, when body breaks up after death, he is reborn in the waste, the woeful plains, the downfall in hell. Thus, monks, is the person who is in darkness and bound for darkness. And how, monks, is a person in darkness but bound for light? In this case, a certain person is born in a low family, the family of a scavenger or a hunter or a basket weaver, etc., as before. He lives in the practice of doing good with body, speech and mind. And so doing, when body breaks up after death, he is reborn in the happy lot, in the heaven world. And how, monks, is a person in light but bound for darkness? In this case, a certain person is born in a high family, a family of wealthy nobles, or a family of wealthy Brahmins, or of wealthy householders, in a family that is rich, exceedingly rich, of great possessions, with the support of abounding wealth, in a family that abounds in wealth of crops. And that man is well built, comely and charming, possessed of supreme beauty of form. He is one able to get clothes, vehicle, perfumes and flower garlands, bed, dwelling and lights. But he lives in the practice of doing evil with body, speech and thought. So doing, when body breaks up after death, he is reborn in the waste, the woeful plains, the downfall, in hell. Thus, monks, is the person who is in light but bound for darkness. And how, monks, is a person who is in light and bound for light? In this case, a person is born in a high family, a family of wealthy nobles, or a family of wealthy Brahmins, or of wealthy householders, in a family that is rich, exceedingly rich, of great possessions, etc., etc. He lives in the practice of doing good with body, speech and mind. So doing, when body breaks up after death, he is reborn in the happy lot, in the heaven world. Thus monks is one who is in light and bound for light. These monks are the 4 persons found existing in the world. So in this sutta, you see there are different kinds of people in this world. There are some who are, because of bad karma, they are born in a low family where life is difficult, and physically also they look ugly, and they hardly get food, etc. And in spite of that, because they don't know the Dhamma, nobody taught them the Dhamma, they do evil. They're having a bad life and still they do evil, and because of that they will go down to the woeful plains, the 3 woeful plains, the animal realm or ghost or hell. But the second type of person, he's born to a poor family, despised, etc. But he, because of good conditions, he does good karmas of body, speech and mind. So because of doing good, he is perhaps he comes across the Dhamma, and the Dhamma teaches him to live a righteous life, a good life. So he does good karma, and after that he is born in heaven, or at least in the human realm or something, which is in a better condition than before. Then the third one is a person in light but bound for darkness. That means a person who is born to a rich family, and then he is also endowed with good physical features. He's healthy, strong and good looking, etc. But he does evil and does evil deeds. And this is quite common. People who have come from a rich family, they have power, they have money, and they misuse it. They try to enjoy life too much, get the most out of life, and so later they'll have to suffer and go to the woeful plains. But the fourth one is extremely good. He's got good karma, born in a good family, and he takes the trouble to study the Dhamma, listen to the suttas, and so he guides himself on the right course. He uses his wealth to do meritorious deeds. So he's planting the good karma, so that in the next life he'll be reborn into a very good life again. So we have to remember the sutta which I read earlier also, where the Buddha said, few human beings will come back to the human plane or be born into the Deva realm. Most human beings, when we pass away, most of us, maybe 70-80% of human beings will be born into the woeful plains. But that figure is just a speculation. Will be born to the woeful plains, and not many will be reborn in the human realm and the Deva realm. So because of that, now we have to be very careful. Don't live an ordinary life like most people. Don't be an ordinary person, because the ordinary person doesn't get a good rebirth. We have to make the best out of life, and then we'll get a good rebirth. Make the best out of life, not meaning in a sensual enjoyment, but in the Dhamma sense. Now we come across a sutta which is a bit technical, and it's a bit got to do about meditation. 4.9.87. Monks, these 4 persons are found existing in the world. What for? The unshaken recluse, the blue lotus recluse, the white lotus recluse, and the recluse who is exquisite among recluses. And how, monks, is a person an unshaken recluse? Herein, monks, a monk is a pupil, one who has entered the way. He dwells aspiring for the unsurpassed rest from the toil, just like a Raja's eldest son, a noble duly anointed, one who is not yet anointed and has not come to security. Even so, monks is the pupil who has entered the way, one who dwells aspiring for the unsurpassed rest from the toil, stop a while here to explain this one. This unshaken recluse refers to an Arya, one who has attained one of the 8 stages of Aryahood. So he is unshaken, he'll never fall into the woeful plains. And how monks is a person, a blue lotus recluse. Herein a monk, by destroying the asavas, has reached the release by mind, the release by wisdom that is free from the asavas, and having realized it, abides therein. Yet does he not abide, experiencing with his own person the 8 deliverances. That's the second person. I stop here just to explain. The second person is an Arahant. He has destroyed the asavas. But he is an Arahant who does not experience the 8 deliverances. Later I will explain the 8 deliverances. And to continue the sutta, the Buddha said, thus monks is a person, a blue lotus recluse. And how monks is a person, a white lotus recluse. Herein a monk, by destroying the asavas, has reached the release by mind, the release by wisdom that is free from the asavas, and having realized it, abides therein. And abides experiencing with his own person the 8 deliverances. Stop here a while. The white lotus is also an Arahant, just like the blue lotus recluse. The white lotus recluse is an Arahant, but he experiences the 8 deliverances. The blue lotus, the second one, is an Arahant, but he does not experience the 8 deliverances. The white lotus recluse experiences the 8 deliverances. Then the fourth one. And how monks is a person, a recluse exquisite among recluses. Herein a monk, when invited, enjoys a plentiful supply of robes, but he gets little if uninvited. So also as regards alms, food and lodging. If invited, he enjoys a plentiful supply of requisites and medicines for use in sickness, but he gets little if uninvited. With whatsoever fellows in the holy life he dwells, their behavior towards him in action of body, speech and mind is generally pleasing, rarely displeasing. Moreover, their presents to him are generally pleasing, rarely displeasing. Again, as to those afflictions which originate from bile, phlegm, wind, from the union of bodily humours, from changes of seasons, from stress of circumstances, from personal assaults, or from the ripeness of one's karma, such do not trouble him much. He is free from sickness. As to the 4 jhanas which belong to the higher mind and lead to happy living in this very life, he is a winner of them at will, without difficulty and without trouble. By destroying the asavas, he reaches the release by mind, the release by wisdom, himself comprehending it this very life, and having attained it, he abides therein. Thus monks is a person, a recluse, exquisite among recluses. Now monks, if rightly speaking, one would speak of the recluse, exquisite among recluses, it is just of me that he would rightly use the words. For I, monks, when invited, enjoy a plentiful supply of robes, etc., etc. So these monks are the 4 persons found existing in the world. So I stop here for a while to say, there's the end of this sutta. But this sutta has been used by some monks to say that there is a type of Arahant who attains liberation without the jhanas. And the reason they quote this is because of the blue lotus recluse. Because here it is said that the blue lotus recluse is an Arahant who does not experience the 8 deliverances. Now what are the 8 deliverances? The 8 deliverances are explained in Anguttara Nikaya 8.7.66. And the 8 deliverances are called the 8 Vimokkha. The first one, the first deliverance, that person is conscious of body and he sees forms. He's conscious of his body and he sees forms. The second one, personally unconscious of body, that means he's not conscious of his own body, and he sees forms exterior to himself. The second one, he sees forms exterior to himself. Third deliverance is thinking it is beautiful. He's intent on that abiding. The fourth one abides in the sphere of infinite space. The fifth abides in the sphere of infinite consciousness. The sixth in the sphere of nothingness. The seventh in the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. And the eighth is the cessation of perception and feeling. So you see, the number 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 refers to the arupa jhanas, and finally the cessation. Now there are some monks who use this sutta and say that the first 3 deliverance is equivalent to the 4 jhanas. Is equivalent to the 4 jhanas, because they think without the 4 jhanas you cannot obtain this being conscious of body. He sees form externally, and sees form internally and sees form externally, and abides in the beautiful, etc. But this is incorrect. When you compare it to another sutta, which is a few suttas down the book, is the next sutta I'm going to read is 4.9.89. The Buddha said, "Monks, these 4 persons are found existing in the world. What for? The unshaken recluse, the blue lotus recluse, the white lotus recluse, and the recluse who is exquisite among recluses." Now, the first one, the Buddha said, how monks is a person an unshaken recluse? Herein, a monk is of right view, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Thus, a person is an unshaken recluse. And how monks is a person a blue lotus recluse? Herein, a monk is one of right view, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, and also right knowledge and right release or right liberation. Yet does he not abide experiencing with his own person the 8 deliverances? Thus a person is a blue lotus recluse. And how monks is a person a white lotus recluse? Similarly, he has right view, all the 8 factors of the Iron Eightfold Path, plus right knowledge and right release. And he abides experiencing with his own person the 8 deliverances. This is the white lotus recluse. And then the recluse exquisite among recluses is as before. That means this monk, he gets a plentiful supply of robes, etc., etc. And is also an arahant. Now when you compare this sutta with the previous one, you find that the first one, the unshaken recluse, he has the 8 factors of the Eightfold Path, but he does not have the other 2, right knowledge and right release. That means unshaken recluse is an Arya, but not an Arahant, just like the earlier one. But the blue lotus recluse here, you can see he has all the 10 factors, the 8 factors of the Aryan Eightfold Path, plus right knowledge and right release. That means he is an Arahant. But he does not experience the 8 deliverances also. He does not experience the 8 deliverances. That means he is the same as the earlier blue lotus recluse. But here it is spelled out that he has all the 8 factors of the Aryan Eightfold Path, which means that he has got right concentration. And right concentration is always defined in the suttas as the 4 jhanas or one-pointedness of mind. So it is clear from this sutta 89 that the 8 deliverances does not include the 4 jhanas. This is the mistake made by some monks. They did not see this sutta, they only saw the earlier one, Sutta 87, and they say that the blue lotus recluse there is an arahant who does not experience the 8 deliverances, therefore he does not have the 4 jhana. But in this Sutta 89, it is clear that the blue lotus recluse has all the 8 factors of the Aryan Eightfold Path, plus right knowledge and right release, and still he does not experience the 8 deliverances. Which means the 8 deliverances has nothing to do with the 4 jhanas. Although it has got to do with the arupa jhanas, it does not have anything to do with the rupa jhanas. So it is very important when we study the suttas to study many suttas and compare them. Then only you can get a right view. If you just take 1 sutta or 2 suttas, it's very difficult to understand. For example, Satipatthana. You cannot just take Satipatthana, the Maha Satipatthana Sutta, study that sutta and think you know all about Satipatthana, because there's a lot of suttas on the Satipatthana in the Samyutta Nikaya. There's 1 chapter devoted only to Satipatthana. It's called the Satipatthana Samyutta. And there, if you want to understand about Satipatthana, you have to read that Samyutta. So many suttas there, and explains Satipatthana from different angles. Then you have a right view. So in the same way here, it's very clear that this blue lotus in the second sutta, he does not have the 8 deliverances, does not experience the 8 deliverances, but he has right concentration, one of the factors of the Aryan Eightfold Path, which means that he has got the jhanas, the rupa jhanas. So there is nowhere in the suttas which talks about dry vision arahant. Never mentioned in the sutta about a dry vision arahant. Is something that's only found in the commentaries, the later books. In our suttas, the Buddha said very clearly, in one of the suttas I read earlier, that a Sotapanna and a Sakadagami, the first 2 fruition persons, they have perfect sila. Anagami has got perfect sila and samadhi. That means that Anagami must have the jhanas. And the Arahant has got perfect sila, samadhi and panya, which means all Arahants have perfect sila, samadhi and panya. That means all Arahants have perfect samadhi, which is the jhanas. And there's nowhere in the suttas you can find anywhere there the Buddha said you can attain arahanthood without the jhana, one-pointedness of mind. Now we've come to sutta number 4.10.93. The Buddha said, monks, these 4 persons are found existing in the world. What for? Herein, monks, a certain person is one who gains tranquilization of the mind internally, but does not gain the higher wisdom from contemplation of states. Herein again, monks, a certain person is one who gains the higher wisdom from contemplation of states, but does not gain tranquilization of the mind internally. Herein again, monks, a certain person is one who gains neither of these things. Yet again, a certain person is one who gains both. These 4 persons are found existing in the world. Then, monks, he who gained tranquilization of the mind, but not the higher wisdom from contemplation, should make an effort to establish the one and attain the other. Then at some future time, he is one who has gained both of these things. Then, monks, he who has gained the higher wisdom from contemplation, but not tranquilization of the mind, should make an effort to establish the one and attain the other. Then at some future time, he is one who has gained both. Then, monks, he who has gained neither tranquilization of the mind, nor the higher wisdom from contemplation, should put forth intense desire, effort, exertion, impulse, unobstruction, mindfulness and attention for the attainment of those profitable states. Just as, monks, when one's turban or head is ablaze, for the extinguishing thereof, one must put forth intense desire, effort, exertion, impulse, unobstruction, mindfulness and attention. Even so must that person put forth intense desire and etc., etc., for the attainment of those profitable states. Then at some future time, he is one who has gained both tranquilization of the mind internally and the higher wisdom from contemplation of states. So, monks, he who has gained both these things should make an effort to establish just those profitable states, and further to destroy the asavas. These monks are the 4 persons found existing in the world. This sutta is concerned with meditation. And here you find there are 2 things that the Buddha says should be developed. One is tranquilization of the mind, which is in Pali is called samatha. And the other one is contemplation or vipassana. Sometimes people translate vipassana as insight or wisdom, but that is not correct, because from here you can see, this is one of the suttas where it says, the higher wisdom from contemplation. That means contemplation will lead to the wisdom. So vipassana will lead to wisdom or insight. So vipassana is not insight or wisdom, but vipassana is contemplation. And these are the two things that we have to do when we meditate. One is tranquilization of the mind. The other one is contemplation to give us the insight or the wisdom. So there are four types of persons here. The first one is a person who has gained tranquilization, samatha, but he has not gained the wisdom from contemplation. Second one, he has gained the wisdom from contemplation, but not tranquilization of the mind. And the third one is one who has neither of these two things. And the fourth one is one who has both of these things. And from here you can see, the Buddha says that if a person has tranquilization, he should make an effort to establish the tranquilization, to make it stable, to make it strong, and to attain the other that he has not attained, that is to attain the wisdom from contemplation. And the second case, one who has the wisdom from contemplation but not tranquilization, he should make an effort to establish his wisdom from contemplation and to attain tranquilization also. So in the third case, he should put forth an effort to attain both tranquilization as well as contemplation, the wisdom from contemplation. One thing you note here is that the tranquilization has to be established. That means it is not perfect yet. And same with contemplation. The wisdom from contemplation here is not the perfect wisdom that will make that person an arahant. So the Buddha says he has to make it, to establish it or to attain it. Samatha here, samatha is tranquilization, leads to samadhi, and vipassana or contemplation leads to panya. Sometimes people nowadays tend to say that there's such a thing as vipassana jhana, but vipassana jhana is actually kanika samadhi, and it's contemplation of one object after another. So it is actually contemplation. It is not samadhi, and it is not the Buddha samadhi, because we note that vipassana, or what they call vipassana jhana, is contemplation of one state after another, and that is vipassana. But samatha is the tranquilization of the mind from contemplating one object, and that leads to one-pointedness of mind, samadhi. That's why we find, for example, in the Aryan Eightfold Path, you have sati plus samadhi. They are two different factors. They are not one factor. The seventh factor is right mindfulness. This is contemplation, that is vipassana practice, and that leads to right samadhi. And it is very important to note that these two are two factors. It's not one factor. It's always separate. There's vipassana, or the mindfulness, is one factor, whereas samadhi is the ability to put the mind on one thing only and let it stay on that one thing. So that's why in a sutta like this, it's quite clear that you have to develop both things, the tranquilization as well as the contemplation. And we can understand from the last part, you see that they have to develop both these things, and after these two are attained, and he has to make a further effort to establish these two states and use it to destroy the asavas. There's one sutta later on we'll come across, Anguttara Nikaya 4.170, where Venerable Ananda says there are 4 ways to attain arahanthood. Only 4 ways. The first one is to practice samatha first, followed by vipassana. The second is vipassana first, followed by samatha. The third is samatha and vipassana at the same time. The fourth is contemplation of the self, and that leads to one-pointedness of mind, and that leads to attainment of arahanthood from further contemplation. So you find that all these ways has both the elements of samatha as well as vipassana.